Welcome back to day 2, stage 2 of the Leadville Stage Race. If you're new here, my name is Steve. I'm a husband, a dad of 3 amazing boys, and a guy with a full-time job and big dreams. I'm on a journey to get healthy and fit through mountain biking, proving to my kids and myself that you don't have to give up on your goals, even when life's full. If you're trying to hold on to your dreams while showing up for your family, you're not alone. Welcome to the ride. In the event that this is likely part 2 of the video, where I assume I'm doing like day 2 and day 3 together and day 1 is a separate video, I'll give you a quick recap. So the Leadville Stage Race is typically the same course as the Leadville 100 bike course, just broken into 3 days. They take out a tiny bit of the beginning and end just so that you don't finish on the street, but otherwise it's the same. But with the Willow fire happening right outside of Leadville, they had to create a new course, and thankfully they were still able to do the event, so that's a massive win. But they created a new course that uses a lot of the Silver Rush 50 and the marathon courses. And so yesterday was day 1 of that, and it was one direction of that Silver Rush and marathon course, and it was brutal. The consensus from everyone was that it was so incredibly hard, so long. I think everyone was saying it, and at the dinner that night, you know, that was the running joke, was how hard it was, and how day 2 today, the Coline, is actually like the easy day, so to speak. And comparatively, I think it will be the easy day, although Coline is hard. The top of it is super rough, and you're getting up over 12,000 feet again, so all of that is pretty rough, but it's a much shorter day. It's only 22 miles versus yesterday's 37, almost 38 miles. So yeah, I was in a dark spot yesterday during the race and after. I did not know if I really wanted to continue or how I'd be able to, but I had a lot of stomach issues, and I think the consensus there was that I took in too many carbs. I kind of used my typical plan, which might work at home at sea level, but wasn't really working well for elevation. And I was at probably like 110-ish grams of carbs an hour for the first 3 hours, and then less for the last because I lost a bottle, and I didn't quite plan to be going. I didn't plan to go over 4 hours, so ran a little bit low. But yeah, so not enough plain water, too much carbs for the elevation, and yeah, my stomach was really hindering me for the last third or so of the course, last half maybe of the course, and really impacted the power that I put out and impacted just how I feel afterwards. I was cramping up a lot. My stomach is feeling fine now, but my muscles are not. My hip flexors are so incredibly tight and sore. A little bit worried about that because those were the first things that started to cramp. I'll do some stretching. Hopefully it all works out. I have a better plan for my nutrition this time. I have a much lighter mix in my bottles. I don't have a pack. Otherwise, I would normally, what I did for the 100 or the stage race last year was I carried a pack that had plain water. So I had my 2 bottles, then I had a pack with plain water. So if I ever just wasn't feeling right, or it was hard to take in mix, especially at higher elevations like on the Coline climb, I would just do plain water. Yeah, I should have brought my pack. I should have not packed other things so that I could fit it. But what I have now is a lighter mix in my 2 bottles, and I'll use more gels. And then at the top of Coline, I'll get some water. I'll refill one of my bottles with just plain water, and might grab another gel if I need it, and then just sip the water as needed. So that's the plan. We'll see. It sounds like a better plan. I'll let you know afterwards how it works out. So yeah, I think I think we're good. Otherwise, gonna stretch. Spend a little extra time stretching. Got a really good parking spot. The Twin Lakes, the day 2 starts and ends at Twin Lakes, which is nice to start and end at the same place. And it's closer to where I'm staying, so it's easy to get to. I don't have to leave. I can stay an extra 15 minutes or whatever. Easy to get to, and I got here early enough that I parked pretty darn close to the top of the dam. Parking's rough at Twin Lakes because it basically just lines the whole road leading up to the dam because they don't let you park up on top of the dam. So anyway, that's enough talking. Yeah, let's get ready for this, and I'll see you out there.
We will see you right back here.
All right, day 2 starts off with just a few miles of up and down, pretty steep but short little punchy sections, and nothing overly technical or anything. It's all pretty low elevation, and then it comes out into this wide open road, and it's a pretty steady downhill grade. A lot of times if you have a pretty low geared chain ring in the front, you'll probably be spun out in this section. I try to get up to speed as much as possible, and then just tuck and go. And it has this wide open, no trees, fairly flat section for just a couple miles before you get into what's known as the Lost Canyon area, Lost Canyon Road. In the 100, this is where the Lost Canyon aid station would be, just coming up here in like a mile or so. And for me, I'm kind of, do I join a group, do I not? It's a fairly short section, so it's, if it were several miles, I'd think about it more. But for me, the pace was just kind of not quite right. For me, I'm still pedaling pretty easy here, even going past these groups, so I'm being selective about what group I sort of join, because I need to get as comfortably ahead as possible before the climb starts, because a lot of these people will pass me on the climb. So I eventually jump into a group that's kind of at a good pace that I'm comfortable with, that it's steady enough for me, and cruise with them through to Lost Canyon. So we just came through where that Lost Canyon aid station would be for the 100, and we're coming up the road, and this is officially, the bottom of the Coline climb, even though we haven't gotten into the trees yet. This is the start of a almost 8 miles. I think it's 7.8 mile climb. It's about 3,000 feet of elevation gain over that time. The average grade, it depends on what you're looking at, but just looking back at my file, the average grade is 7%. I think Ride with GPS puts the average grade at closer to like 5%. I'd have to find that somewhere, but anyway, according to my ride file, it was average of 7%. The max grade is 16%. I've actually heard people say some of those spots up at the top are closer to 20. So again, kind of depends on what you're looking at. And this ultimately takes me about 2 hours from that Lost Canyon spot to the summit point, the turnaround point at the top. And my normalized power ends up being 181 watts. And down here, I kind of skipped through a lot of this lower section because it all pretty much looks the same. As you get towards the top, the trees get a little bit thinner, gets a little bit rockier, and then you start having that two-way traffic. The two-way traffic is coming, kind of the whole time when you're doing the 100, but a lot less people here for the stage race. So again, as you get to the top, it gets a little rockier, and then just about 2 miles before the summit, you end up hitting what's known as the goat trail. And it's a very, very noticeably different part of the course. It gets really steep and rocky, and there's a section that's, a few hundred feet. And so I called out to someone, I don't know if you caught that, but I called out to someone that I'm going to walk because I knew that there were a couple people right behind me. So just letting them know that I fully intend to walk at this point. But this is right where we're getting to the goat trail. The pros and, a lot of fast people will do this clean without ever setting a foot down. But for me, I have to put out so much power to get through these really steep sections. And especially when it's loose, like this one, several hundred feet long section, it's really difficult. So I kind of keep moving until it doesn't feel great, and just hop off and start the walking process. And then it's just back and forth of walking, riding, the whole way to the top. So while we're watching me and everyone else suffer up these sections, and again, it's not just the steepness and occasional looseness. It's you're really up there in elevation. You're passing 12,000 on your way up to 12,500 feet. So it really takes its toll. And anytime you push, or anytime I push my power really high, it just, my heart rate spikes, my breathing spikes. It just feels horrible, and it's really hard to come back from that. So that's what I'm trying to be protective of here, and I ride when I can, and I only really push through hard sections if they're really, really short, like there might be just a little knob to get over. But it does start going, a little bit more up and down. Kind of levels out in a few spots, gets real steep, and then it kind of gets a little bit more moderate. So it's just alternating that for, about 2 miles or so. But a lot of people who are really fast and are trying to do this whole thing clean will talk about not being able to eat or drink in this section because it's so difficult and your heart rate's so high. But if you're walking, it's actually a good spot to try to get some fluids in when it's not super steep and you're doing everything you can to just push your bike up. So a little bit different strategy there. For me this day, I really erred on not taking in too much because of how bad my stomach was on day one. So for the first hour or so, I was not really taking in any carbs, and I waited to see how I felt to make sure that my stomach was feeling good as I started riding. And then I took a little bit more at the hour mark. I took a gel, made sure that that felt okay. For the most part, I had some, gas and burping in the first 30 minutes or so, but it wasn't too bad, and it did get more manageable. But I kept the carb count very, very low this whole day, and I did pay a price in terms of my effort, which I was okay with. I knew that going in, that this was not going to be a great day for me, and I would just do my best to keep moving, but it showed up in the power numbers for me, and I really started to fade as we got towards the top here.
Scoot by for a sec.
So coming up to the turnaround point, it's a really great sight to see, and the grade mellows out a bit, so most everyone's pedaling this last little section here. Funny enough, for the 2026 100 course, which I now know what it is, this is not the finishing point. The finishing point, you will actually continue on the road. I don't know if it's to the left or the right here, but you continue along the ridge, and you kind of go down the other side a little bit.
You're amazing, thank you.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So when this is the turnaround point on the previous 100 course, and how it is for the stage race, you get to this aid station, this turnaround, and you're immediately going downhill. So if you need to stop at the aid station, you kind of make the most of it right there. And here I handed that guy a bottle, and he set it on the table.
Thank you so much.
I
You're amazing.
was not fully paying attention and rode right past it, so I was trying to back up to it, and thankfully he helped me out again and got it for me. But as soon as you start going again, you're heading downhill, so you kind of take whatever nutrition you can and get it down, and then you head downhill. And I actually left this whole upper section in here so you could see unedited the full run of what this section is like, with some two-way traffic, definitely less traffic than in the 100 bike course, but yeah, you can see exactly what it's like, and gets pretty rough in some spots, fairly smooth in others, pretty steep, some tight corners, but I actually have a lot of fun with this section, but this is kind of the most interesting part. So again, I was not really paying attention as
Thank you so much. Sorry about that.
attentively as I should have been, and I did not catch that the road turns there, so I almost missed that turn. Thankfully, the timing worked out that no one was right there. Guy might have been a little frustrated that he had to stop walking, or maybe he was thankful that he had to stop walking for a second. But thankfully that one worked out. But stay alert, folks. Keep your eyes up. So I mentioned this in my last video, but where I'm at in the race. I'm not pressuring people,
Thank you.
especially in a section like this, to pull over. If they do, then I'm grateful and thankful. If they don't, then I just wait for what I think is a really safe opportunity. I've seen a lot of people who just are not comfortable going down in this race series, and as soon as you pass them or are about to pass them, they really tense up. So an already tense situation for them, they get more tense. And if I was in a more competitive position, I might, push more, but I'm doing the best I can to kind of give people space and respect, and I'm definitely, as soon as I have the opportunity, I will take it, and when I know that they can hold their line and I can take a line, but even still, as safe as I try to be, some people will get uncomfortable, and there's only so much that I can do. I can move a lot faster than some folks, and I need to make up the time, so I have to give myself permission to do that. So that is the descent of the goat trail, and from there it's just the same simple winding roads, pretty much the same thing the whole way down until you get back to the Lost Canyon aid station, which is where I'm coming up to now. So this is all lined with tents in the 100 race. I think this is where the elite feed zone is as well. And yeah, this is pretty packed in the 100, so that's really interesting. But again, we're just headed back the same way, so it's fairly uneventful here. As you get back again, this section, once you get through these flat, wide open roads, you get back into that kind of like undulating, steep pitch area. Not technical, but it can get a little loose and rocky and chunky in some spots, but it's all fairly short. And I'm here knowing that I'm not going to be able to push hard up these punchy bits, so I kind of stay right behind these folks, even though I can go a lot faster, or not a lot, I can go a little faster when it's flatter or when it's downhill, but I just know that they're going to keep passing me, and these sections just keep coming. It's just, you go down and you go right back up, and down and right back up, so I just end up hanging out behind them until we're nearly through, and then just do my best to bomb it down to the finish line, which is coming up here shortly.
Pass on your left. Pass on your left. You're clear.
Shane Mertz out of Houston. This is out the area.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Good job, Eve.
He has 7 seconds on me.
Looking at Gary Tobias coming on.
All right, folks, we did it. Stage 2 is done. 22 miles, 3,000 something feet of climbing, and survived. That's normally the hard day. You know, it's, I don't know how long the climb is, but basically, you know, it's 11 miles up, and then you turn around 11 miles back, and the vast majority of that first 11 miles is climbing. So it's a hard day. Tops out at like 12,500 feet. So you got the elevation to worry about too. And yeah, I think the nutrition worked out fairly well. I have this much left in this bottle, so didn't drink a whole lot. And then this one, you probably see in the clip, but I had him dump it out and just put water in, which was really nice that the guy did that. Like, I've never had someone, actually, I guess I've seen that. I just haven't had it happen to me where they kind of run from one side, ask you what you need, get it. But I felt like this was like half full still. So half of this bottle, half of this bottle. And then I had 2 gels, I think. I might have had just one at the start and then one while riding. So overall though, my stomach feels fine. Didn't feel fine going up, but that's kind of normal. You know, the elevation just kind of gets to you, I think, no matter what. And I think if I had plain water that might have been a little better. Sorry, I don't know if that was indecent or not. If I had plain water, that might have been a little bit better, but I wasn't quite able to like take big sips or anything. I think honestly the first 20 minutes or so is when I was kind of like burping and my stomach felt the weirdest. But I'd say overall it was a success. Didn't cramp, although I definitely felt everything from yesterday, my hip flexors in particular. So yeah, just do my best to recover, show up tomorrow, and no idea what I'll be able to do, but I'll just show up. So focus on getting some food, a lot of carbs, rice, pretzels, bagel maybe, who knows. I don't know exactly what I have in the camper, but I'll eat anything that I can hold down and hopefully do some stretching. Yesterday I was too afraid to do some stretching, so yeah, that's today. All right, before we get to day 3, I just wanted to do a quick recap on how I'm feeling and everything, since that's kind of been the storyline of this stage race for me. So the benefit of today being hard but short day is that it was short. There's more time to just recover and do whatever else, and maybe just kind of less time on the bike was nice. So 3 hours today instead of 4.5 on Friday, the first day. And the first day I took a really long time to leave because I was hurting so bad. My stomach hurt so bad that I could hardly walk. My legs were so sore. I just wasn't really moving, so it took forever to get out of there. Today, I hung out a little bit, got some things, got my bike cleaned, which they do for free. It's a local organization, volunteers, in exchange for donations, if you want to make a donation. So got my bike washed, made some calls and got out of there, and had enough time to get showered, put my feet up, kind of elevate my legs, do a little bit of light walking, did some laundry, made a couple meals, all that kind of stuff. So feeling a lot better. My legs still feel a little heavy and tired, but nowhere near like I felt yesterday. So yeah, got some good food in, got some good clean carbs, and feeling pretty good about my situation right now, the best that I can make of it. Have a new game plan for nutrition tomorrow. Tomorrow will be another hard day though, so I think that'll be a good test, and it's a testing day for me. So this is not my main event of the year. The 100 in 3 weeks is my main event, so tomorrow is a chance for me to test nutrition plans at altitude, at high elevation, and some intense long climbs and everything. So I need to take advantage of it, because the next time I'm here will be just days before the stage race, and I won't have that chance. So yeah, I'm out for a little light walk before kind of winding down for the evening. I'll put my feet up again, but just kind of getting a little movement, blood flowing through my legs, to my stomach. I just had my last kind of meal, dinner time at like 6:30, and it's almost 7 now. So yeah, a little light walk and turn it down for the night. Hopefully you get to sleep easily and get a good night's sleep, and that's kind of the best that I could ask for myself for a really hard day 3 coming up. So I'll see you in the morning. Good morning. Day 3, stage 3, just starting my stretching, not just standing here awkwardly at the front of the car, but feeling pretty sore. Went to bed last night with a lot of soreness and tension in my one leg, and woke up feeling about the same. So yeah, pretty beat up. I I think people are just excited to finish today, and that's basically where I'm at, is survive and test some nutrition stuff before the 100. And I think the buckle, I don't think a lot of people realize this, but the stage race does have buckles, a big buckle and a small or regular buckle. And the cumulative time for the big buckle is 8:30, whereas like for the 100 it's 9 hours, a little faster for the stage race. And then instead of 12 hours for the regular buckle, it's 11 hours for the stage race. So if I want the regular buckle, then I have to finish today in about 3 hours and 40 minutes, which I don't think is doable. I think the best case scenario for me today is 4 hours. It's really hard to judge and put an estimate of time on there, but yeah, that's what I'm thinking. But most people are just excited to finish, you know, kind of going to judge their time about halfway through and see if they're in the ballpark and should keep pushing, or just you know, dial back and finish. So I'm assuming that I'm going to be in the latter camp. But yeah, excuse me. I dialing back my nutrition a little bit, not a lot, but a little bit. But the bigger change, I think, or bigger focus, is the timing. So for me, as I get higher in elevation and I'm putting out more effort going up, I am struggling to digest and you know, consume the carbs. So I really need to focus on when I'm either going down, when it's safe, of course, or like in the valleys. That's when I should try to take in most of my nutrition. So I'm going to focus on timing a little bit more. My average carbs per hour target is like 80 or 90 as opposed to 100 to 120. I definitely need to fuel the efforts and not go into a major deficit. Like yesterday, I hardly had any carbs, and it didn't help the situation that I was already super fatigued and tired, and I was going deeper into a glycogen deficit by not taking in carbs. So I'm going to try to keep that number up a bit. At the aid stations, I'll actually stop and do some things at the aid station. That's probably the other big change, is that on day one, I switched from Tailwind to Never Second, and it may not be that Never Second doesn't sit well. It may be more, for me personally, it may be more that I just switch brands and their different ratios, and then the sodium content was so much lower. That's probably the bigger difference, is that Never Second doesn't have a whole lot of sodium in it, and I typically add sodium even to like First Endurance and Tailwind have a decent amount of sodium in them, but I still add sodium because I'm a big guy and I'm a big sweater. So that may have been the bigger issue as opposed to just like changing brands and stuff. So I'm actually going to carry extra Tailwind. I'm going to carry extra electrolytes, and at the aid stations, I'll just stop and deal with the transition time. I think taking an extra few minutes to do all of that will be worth it. At least that's the theory. That's the hope. And again, it's about testing today, so that's what we're testing. So yeah, I'll be carrying all that, be carrying more gels, focus on timing. I'll still probably keep the effort in check. Today's huge. Today's huge days. It's the reverse of day one. I think, if I remember correctly, there's 3 primary climbs. Essentially, the first one is like 7.5 miles long, goes up to 12,000 feet. The next one is like 2 different climbs. Like there's a summit and then a fairly long descent, and then you go up again, up to, I don't know, not quite 12,000. I think that one's only a couple miles long. I should look that up. And then the last one is another over 7-mile climb, back up to 12,000 feet again. And then actually, I think the last 4 miles roughly is either a descent or flat. So that's really nice. So I think today's 34 miles, so it's basically 30 miles. And then at the 30-mile mark, I'll be pretty ecstatic that I've survived the climbs and everything. So big effort. It's going to take a lot of fuel, so I'm going to try to get it all in and see how it goes. And no matter what, today's the last day. Excited for some real food, not some bland, simple carbs and low-fat meals like I've been eating. So, yeah, I'll take you along for the ride, show you what I can. Fingers crossed everything goes super well, and I'll see you out there. Another beautiful Leadville race day for day 3, the last day, and the first 3 miles is just a little bit of a up and then down to make everyone's way out to the main climb. So kind of this, is starting over by or on the Colorado Mountain College campus, and instead of doing a bunch of the single track to start, we just kind of take some of the main 2-track roads and then over to one of the county roads, and then that's when we start the first big climb, and it's 2 major climbs. Again, this is the reverse of the first day, so the main climbs are the reverse. The start and end is the start of day 3 is kind of what's the most different, because we did all that single track to end day 1, but the main climbs are the same. But the thing that I didn't totally think about ahead of time, but I really enjoyed, given how tired I was that the climbs, even though they're long, are just more gradual. They're way more gradual. They were shorter and steeper on day 1 with really long descents, and so we're doing that backwards, obviously, as I said, so they're just pretty gradual. They do get pretty steep. There's no avoiding that. This first one is 7.5 miles, roughly 2,000 feet of gain. I think the average grade is 5%, and it does get pretty steep. It maxes out around 20% is what my ride file said. The climb took me 1 hour and 24 minutes, and my normalized power was 201 watts, and it definitely got really steep at the end. So I don't know what my total walking time was, but there were some solid sections that I had to walk, and right here, you're coming up to the end. I heard these people cheering, which kudos to them. Thanks so much for being there and cheering so long. But I heard them cheering for so long on the trail, but it just kept going. So it was a little, not quite discouraging, because they were being very encouraging, but it was just kind of like, man, is this ever going to end? And then obviously it does eventually end, and hop on and just get to enjoy a nice county road descent and let go of the brakes and enjoy the ride. Again, these east side trails and county roads are so beautiful, and I've never ridden over here until this week, and I'm so glad that the stage race course was over here, because it forced me to ride them, and they're so nice, and you spend so much more time at high altitudes. The average altitude over here is just quite a bit higher than a lot of the other parts of the 100 course that I would normally spend time on. So I was really grateful that we ended up over here and got to see all of this, and as hard as it was just great roads and trails and views and scenery the whole time. And it may not look like it, and I forgot to mention this earlier, but I was actually holding back a decent amount on the descents when it got chunky because I had lost a bottle on the first day, and I used these 30-ounce Hydro Pack bottles, and it's just a little too big for the bottle cage that I have on my down tube, and I've lost 2 or 3 bottles, and I lost one the first day, and I did not want to lose any more and did not need to go as fast as possible. So when it got really chunky, like at the top of Columbine coming down or a few spots here, I definitely held back a bit just to make sure, and I slowed down so that I could actually like glance down at my bottle. Thankfully it was a white bottle, so it was easier to see and make sure that it was there. Sounds silly, but I definitely was very aware of how fast I was going and when to slow down and make sure that I kept all my nutrition, not just for the nutrition's sake, but because I didn't want to lose another bottle. So at this point, we're on the 3rd climb, and there is a sort of a second climb. It's really short overall. It's only a 2-mile climb, 600 feet of elevation gain, fairly steep as is everything else around here. I think the max grade is only like 13%, only 13%. But that took me under 25 minutes, 203 watts normalized. And then for climb 3, that's another 7+ mile climb. It's only 1,500 feet of elevation gain as opposed to 2,000 for the first climb. Average grade's like 4%, max grade somewhere 17 to 18%. And this one took me a little over an hour and 7 minutes, 199 watts normalized. And I forgot my battery, a second battery, so I apologize. I did not get more footage, but the short story is that I pushed hard to finish the climb, and I was really proud of that effort. But as I started the steep, chunky descent at the top, things didn't go as planned, and I'll explain that in just a second, but that's why I didn't record any more footage.
I missed the finish line because I had almost no battery left and just forgot, but finished. Little crash. Hopefully it's not too bad, but finished at single speed because I must have bent my derailleur or something. The battery's still on, so I don't know what I did, but got to get it fixed before the 100. But I finished. That's an accomplishment. Something like 4 hours. I don't know exactly, right around exactly 4 hours, but that's it. Done. Finish line. Well, that is a wrap on the stage race, day 3. Ultimately, day 3 was really great. I'm super happy with how it went. I was holding power better than I thought that I'd be able to. Definitely, running low on energy in some spots and, coming over some hard pitches, on the other side, my power would be pretty low. But overall, that's pretty good. I think my normalized power was maybe 195. That's a solid day, solid 4-hour day. They ended up moving the buckle time. So normally the stage race cumulative regular or small buckle time is 11 hours, but they ended up moving it back to 12 hours. And my time was 11 hours and 20 minutes. So got a buckle, which is amazing. Definitely didn't think that I would get a buckle, and everyone else was thinking they wouldn't either. And a lot of people still, didn't hit that 12-hour mark. But yeah, everything went well except for a crash at the end, which was pretty annoying. I didn't get it on camera because my battery was running low. And I was planning to save it for the end, but I forgot to at the end, partly because the crash distracted me. But there was a section pretty close to the top of the last climb when you start coming down, where it's just, basically 2-track Jeep road, but it's super, super rugged. And the one track was all just like big rocks. You wouldn't really go through there unless you're going slow or just, crazy good or something. And then the right side was a dirt track, and it was totally fine, totally great. I could see I was coming up to this like right curve, not a big turn, but a curve, and the right track that was all dirt got pretty narrow, maybe like a couple hand widths wide, and it was off camber slightly, and it was all just like jagged rocks to the left and then a cliff on the other side, or not a cliff, but like a drop, a very, very steep drop. And I hate loose off camber stuff. And so I tried to slow down. I saw it coming, was trying to focus, but I kind of don't trust like riding in the middle or on the outside edge of that. And I got too close to the inside. I'm not exactly sure what happened, if I clipped a pedal, if my rear tire slid out. I don't know exactly what it was, but it all happened super fast before I could really slow down. So it wasn't crazy. I didn't go over the bars, but it was quite high speed. And my bike went flying, thankfully stayed on the trail. It didn't go down the side. That would have been super annoying. I got right back up. I didn't look at anything. I didn't want to know. I didn't feel terribly bad, so I didn't want to know if it was bad. So I just didn't look, and just kept going. And it didn't really affect me too much, going down the rest of the way. It's just that off camber, loose, narrow with kind of a cliff on the side. We'll call that my weakness. So, what I did realize though is that something was up with my derailleur. I didn't know what it was. I just knew that I couldn't shift. So I didn't bother to stop and look at it because I knew we were basically just going downhill from there. But there was one section that I didn't know was coming, and it was maybe a quarter mile, half mile, and it was fairly steep, and I was in a pretty high gear from having started going downhill. And I just single speeded it, stood up, pedaled my way through. My heart rate was going crazy, and I made it to the top. Totally fine. And that was kind of the last thing. There were some flat sections where it was totally fine to be in the gear that I was in. And then at the very end, like coming into the finish line, I was geared out. I couldn't go any faster. It was kind of already downhill. So I just sat down and enjoyed the finish, and then got checked out, and not too much. Didn't need stitches or anything. Just a pretty big scratch. Got a Band-Aid that it's going to suck to clean out. I have a bunch of little scratches elsewhere on my hand and on my leg, and a little bit came through my glove, and I'm not exactly sure what's under my bibs. There's a couple rips and holes in it, but I think it's going to be more bruising than anything. So anyway, really happy with how it ended. It was a really rough start. I think a lot of people were just happy that they finished and made it through. And day 3, the course was, I got a bunch of gel in my mouth. The day 3 course was actually kind of nice. Like the climbs were just steady climbs, much lower grade. The descents were manageable. The views were great. So like, yeah, that was a nice way to end. Still harder than the Columbine day. So I think that's the funny thing, is like, that's supposed to be the hard day, but day 1 and 3 were harder. Day 1 was definitely the hardest. So, but my nutrition strategy worked out well. Like I talked about before, it was kind of higher, but not as high as usual carbs per hour, 80 to 90. And I think I need to do the math. Maybe I'll put it in the screenshot in the screen if I can figure it out. Wasn't totally perfect because there were a couple bottles that I didn't finish, and I put either water in or put more mix or something like that. But it went really well. I was able to eat, didn't really have any stomach issues at all. Timing was a little bit better, although I still consumed on the way up climbs. But if I was going up and I was drinking something or eating something, then I was waiting until a flatter section or not as steep so that my heart rate came down and it was a little easier to digest. And then I usually followed up a gel with something from my bottle, and I ended up having one bottle that was mostly water and sodium. I think that helped to be able to chase things down or to be able to consume that instead of a higher carb mix at certain points. But I think it helped to have the extra sodium to stick with the tailwind. Yeah, I didn't need all the sodium that I brought, but I did bring a bunch. And at one point, I had a bottle refilled and I didn't put sodium in it. And I just kind of knew the game plan was to not do that, to always put sodium in. And so at some point on the trail, it was kind of flatter section, I don't know how much longer later I ended up stopping. I had to go to the bathroom. I went to the bathroom. I put sodium in that bottle. I'd hardly touched it yet. So I had a good amount of sodium. So that plan worked. It's really, really great to know that that's going to work. That's basically will be the plan for Leadville, a version of that, for a 11-ish hour day, hopefully. Well, I should take that back. We'll see what the course is like, and then try to get an estimate of time. So I was originally thinking I would shoot for between 10 and 11 hours, depending with the regular course. But who knows? If the course is closer to this, then I guess closer to 12 hours. So yeah, we'll be all sitting on pins and needles to get the course officially announced and everything and know what it is. But if you've made it this far, thanks so much for following along. Sorry I didn't get more footage today. Forgot the battery, but I will work on that. I'm getting better at all this. And yeah, I really appreciate you following along, and hopefully this comes out before the 100. So the next video will be all about the 100. So thanks again. Appreciate you tuning in. Stay tuned for more.